Good afternoon. Welcome to the Shrewsbury Housing Authority regular board meeting for June 11th, 2024.
Mr. Chair, if it pleases the board, I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of the May board meeting, May 14th, 2024, as written.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I should have asked if there were any questions or comments, but that's okay.
I'm recusing myself since I wasn't here.
Okay, we have one recusal.
Maybe
All
two.
right. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the treasurer financial reports. As we can see, there are balances there, and we can save the discussion for unfinished business until, for the bank account balances. We'll save that for unfinished business, okay? All right. Any questions on the treasurer's balances? If there are none, we'll go to the vendor account check register.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Paul?
22236, La Rochelle for 35 grand. It's a fish project. Which project and is La Rochelle?
Lasherelle is the contractor for 175 Lake Street.
That's
What-
175 Lake Street.
For what job? It was 175 Lake was the answer to my question.
Dick.
For what job there?
The site drainage.
Okay, the drainage, okay.
Is that the end of the job?
We're hoping, this is just for this bill.
Yeah.
This is requisition number 3.
Of how many?
Hopefully 4.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions on any of these bills? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the 47 checks totaling $125,472.42. $472.42.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Motion, I'll make a chair for the section 8, I'd like a motion for the section 8 vouchers, 2 in the amount of 268724.
Second.
We have a second by Kathy and Vic Sweeney, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
If it please Mr. Chair, I'll then make a motion for the standard, check right, the
Landlords
section.
and,
Yeah, landlord vouchers.
Yeah.
146 in the amount of 173,108 even.
we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Make a motion that we approve the May payroll as written.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I'm somewhat amiss, and I'll stop for a second here just to welcome our new member. Kelly, could you do the introductions?
This is Stephen Boyd. He resides at Francis Gardens. He applied. He was one of the 3. The selectmen interviewed him, and they offered him to be the board member for the next 5 years.
3.
Is it 5 or 3?
3, it was to complete the term.
I thought that letter was 5, but no, there's a letter in our package.
It expires the 27th.
So that's 3.
3,
Three.
I'm sorry, 3 years.
So he's filling the unexpired term.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Welcome.
Welcome. Welcome aboard. We look forward to your continued participation and hard work.
Look forward to working with you all.
Thank you, thank you. All right, Kelly, we're at the vacancy reports.
Francis Gardens has no vacancies as of right now. Elizabeth Gardens has 1. Family units have 2. The men, it's in the process of make ready, but we already have the tenants. They're all
They're all lined up?
lined up, ready.
Did we get local tenants?
2.
Okay.
2.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, thank you, Kelly. Towers?
Towers has been accepted, maintenance is in there right now, but the offer was sent out, accepted, and that person's still looking.
Wow.
Good news.
3 out of 4.
3 out of 4 ain't bad.
Right.
As the song goes. Section 8,
100%.
congratulations, good work. Then we have the social services report,
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
please.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Kelly, but has this been conspicuously absent for the last several months, and is it because we have someone new, or is this,
Somebody new.
okay, so, all right, all right.
So
So
this is starting up again.
Yes, as it's a grant, these have to be filled out, and I have to send them to DHCD each month also.
Is it a part-time person, or is it a full-time?
Part-time, she's 18 hours.
So that explains the numbers. Okay, that would make it right on track, okay. Especially for a ramp-up period if she's new.
She saw 28 residents.
Okay, thank you. That's it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any other questions on the social services report? All right, there being none, we'll go to the next item. Let's see here. Unfinished business, bank account proposals. Okay. As you all know, we have a number of accounts at various banks, some of which are earning 0.5% interest instead of interest as we know it. So I'll entertain any comments anybody has. I have some suggestions of my own. Paul, you started this.
I did. I'll be glad to make some comments, Mr. Chair. It's just basic financial prudence, which is clearly one of the primary objectives of this board, overseeing the financial opportunities and interests of the board. Interest, no pun intended. So, common sense treasury strategy says, don't put all your eggs in one basket, but don't put all your eggs in 20 different baskets. Have a streamlined, whatever that number is right for the individual or the institution, but 2 or 3, and then you spread across, you mitigate risk, you make sure you're insured, all of that. Ultimately, as most people know, interest rates have skyrocketed certainly in the last year, but in the last couple of years in aggregate. And some of our banks haven't kept suit, some of them are modest, several of them are in the 2.5, but I think most you can find out there is closer to 4. And as our chair said, a couple of these are at 0.5%. So we asked about a couple months ago to say, does it make sense to aggregate, to consolidate, to look and see where we are, and to see what a go-forward plan might be, even realizing a lot of these are held up in CDs, that we may pay a penalty by pulling out of a CD early, but that penalty might be grossly compensated by picking up 2, 3, 4x the interest and going elsewhere. So that was what did, to Mr. Ricker's point, start this initiative. I see you have the charts here of where people have what. Have you done the work, or is this something, now that I'm recently treasurer, you and I should go offline and say we want to consolidate X, Y, and Z, or get consensus from the other board, the rest of the members of the board? That's where we're at.
What I would suggest is that we get initial consensus from our fellow board members, and then I have a couple of suggestions that I would make that I can pass along today, now. But I would wait for anybody else first, based on what I've read from the banks that have responded to Kelly's inquiries. I have a couple of suggestions.
Okay.
Anybody else? Maria? Okay. Paul, I'm suggesting that you as treasurer take steps on the tower account first of all. When that comes up on the 9th of July, move that to Cornerstone Bank for their 12-month CD.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Kelly highlighted it, the one special for Housing
Yeah.
Authority.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would, I mean, if we're gonna do better, we'd have to look pretty hard and fast. We're not gonna do better than that in totality.
I also want to move the 2 T-Mobile accounts
So
there.
which two? I have 4 T-Mobile accounts all right in a row.
Um,
T-Mobile, 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 T-Mobile.
Yeah, some of these expire, we can defer on the 2 certificates and wait for your decision on those certificates, but I would say the regular share accounts, move them.
Oh, so those, see, I didn't even catch that,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, yeah, oh, yes, correct, yeah, no.
Yeah.
And so that was my point about the penalty, where the certificate accounts are 2.7 and 2.4, it probably doesn't merit moving them, because the jump is only 1.5%.
And I wanna
But-
let you make that decision.
Yeah, well, Kelly and I will look at it, we'll run some basic math, but, it's, the expression is the is the lemon worth the squeeze, is the juice worth it? Probably not in that case, but certainly in the 2, and those aren't CD accounts, correct, Kelly?
No, they're
No,
regular
this-
shares.
this-
Okay, yeah, then those are screaming to be moved.
Oh my God, yeah.
Okay.
As is the one down below, Fiber Tower Network.
Yeah, right,
And the Verizon,
yeah.
okay? I'm suggesting we move all of those into the 1-year CD over at Cornerstone. They've got a good rate, and the Metro CD Maxi. So there's my list right there.
That's great.
I would suggest we move those now, and then get a report from you relative to any other suggestions you may have.
Yeah.
That's my feeling.
Yeah, I think again, if it's over 2, it doesn't, in my opinion, justify the lift and the work and the signing of cards and moving of the money and taking the cashier's check and moving it. But where so many of these are at 0.5%, that does justify our time.
And what I'm suggesting is we're balancing the accounts between Cornerstone and the credit union.
Correct.
That way, we're not putting all our eggs in one basket.
Basic treasury status.
However, I will tell you that we did check with Cornerstone, and they have more insurance than Central One.
All right.
So they insure over and above that 250, so I think that's important to bear in mind as well.
So-
And they're okay for federal funds.
Great.
So, that's my reason for moving those particular accounts, as noted.
I agree. So, maybe next week, you and I can spend a morning together, do a little field trip, go around, okay.
All right.
That's good.
Okay, so you can keep that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
So I don't know if we need to vote on that. Oh, it is money. It is, so, I mean, does the rest of the board need to approve? I mean, as I said, finances aren't our purview, but we're
I
talking
don't
about.
think we need a vote. I think it's Kelly's prerogative as the executive director. However, I think that she can take advantage of the treasurer
Yeah.
and the board for kind of advising consent reasons, and this is what we're suggesting, and I think that,
Okay. All right, then we'll plan on moving forward on that basis. We'll go offline. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
thank you. Okay. The next item is, I did take it out of order, the 10th board member appointment. Stephen is appointed until March 31st, 2027. So again, welcome aboard, Stephen. Thank
So,
you.
Mr. Chair, I think we have a
Yes.
couple of other items of unfinished business before we go to new, if I
Okay.
may.
Please.
One, everyone is obviously aware of the work at the Francis Garden. I just wanted to make sure, because I talked to someone at Town Hall and talked to somebody in, help me Kathy, Affordable Trust. And they wanted to make sure that the money they allocated was distributed and dispersed to us. And then I wanted to make sure that with Francis, we went ahead and had the study done, the feasibility study. Elizabeth.
Is that the contract I just signed?
I don't know, that's what
Signed it.
exactly what I'm asking,
Yeah, I
okay.
just signed it and I sent it back to him.
To whom?
Rennie?
The vendor. Okay, so I'm not only talking about the vendor, I'm talking about sourcing of the money. Because we have a commitment from the Affordable Land Trust, and I've had 2 people say to me, oh, let's make sure we get that to you. So I don't wanna.
Well, that contract, once it's signed, it should go back to Chris McGoldrick.
Okay, well, that's exactly what I wanna illuminate on, because my sense is that's not super clear. So when we come back, when we get that contract, when it's time to be paid, I want to not write a check from Shrewsbury Housing Authority. I want to make a full copy of the contract and the invoice and send it to Chris McGoldrick and request a voucher or disbursement, or however they do it, from the Affordable Housing Trust for that, was it 2,500 or 4,500?
I'm not sure.
I don't remember.
Whatever the amount was that we all agreed on. What's the amount of the contract that you just signed?
I wanna say it's 75.
Maybe it was 7,500. I know it's something 500. Whatever that amount is, we were committed to by the Affordable Trust. And I've had a couple people say to me, oh, I just want to make sure that comes through, so that's.
But, let me just be clear on this. The bill comes to the Shrewsbury Housing Authority. The trust should be sending money to the Shrewsbury Housing Authority. So what we need to do is get our contract over to Chris McColger, so that he reviews it with the Affordable Trust Group,
Okay.
the trust fund group.
That's already happened.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Not
we're,
the signed contract, he's asked for the signed contract.
The contract that was signed was what they approved.
Okay.
So
yeah,
nothing changed.
they're just waiting for an invoice, literal invoice is what they're,
Yeah.
my understanding, I could be wrong, is that they're waiting for an invoice, they wanna cut us a check before time goes by and people start second guessing what happened, so.
So,
Signed contract that I just signed, I will send over to Chris.
with an invoice
With an invoice.
from us to them, asking them to disperse the funds.
Right.
So just to clarify,
Please.
you want Affordable Housing Trust to send money to Housing Authority, and Housing Authority will pay it, rather than give him the bill
I'm
and
not,
have them pay it.
that's a distinction I wasn't harping on, I just wanna make sure one or the other, either they pay us or they pay the vendor, but they pay.
The
So-
town meeting was told that the Affordable Trust is gonna give the money to the housing authority.
Okay, then,
Okay.
that's more clear, that's fine, I just wanna make sure, because I can just see a world where we got the bill, we approved it, we got paid, and we did all that work for nothing, so I just
Right.
wanna make sure we.
Yep,
So that I'm correct, I'll send the contract over to Chris
with an invoice.
with an invoice asking him to give the.
Reimburse us, a copy of Grenier's invoice with an actual invoice for us saying, we are paying this invoice, if it is $7,500, I don't wanna be on record as being wrong. We're paying this invoice for $7,500, please reimburse us. Affordable Housing Trust owes Shrewsbury Housing Authority the $7,500 that you committed to fund this project.
Okay?
And I have no problem paying Grenier, fronting the money as long as we get the reimbursement, but I'd have a huge problem missing out on the reimbursement.
He hasn't billed us yet.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying, I just wanna make sure, okay.
Okay.
All right. That was number one, Mr. Chair, if I may, this is number two, and I don't know, we talked potentially about maybe going into exec session, I think you said we didn't need to, but I don't know if the issue of the compensation that there was an email circulated on that we talked about at the last meeting is considered old business, or when we would handle that.
I think it's unfinished business, so we might as well deal with it now.
Okay. Maria, I'm gonna ask you to share with our new board member, because I only made, did I make that? Does everyone have one? Oh,
Yeah.
can you share it? No, Kelly, do you need one? Okay, yeah, then can you share? Thank you. So this is an email, this is a correspondence, when I was chair, Mr. Chair, that came about when we approved, if I go to the back of it, when we approved our operating budget for this year, and we examined the discrepancy between salaries of the team versus the executive director. And most salaries went up by 10% or more, and in the case of the executive director, it was a 3% increase. So there's a long strand here with talking to our accountant, and he agreed and recommended that in order to make it more equitable, we do a one-time bonus payment for the executive director in the fall. And that covers the entire, that bonus payment will cover the entire year only as a one-time payment and make the equivalent as if she had a 10% increase in salary.
And I did double check to make sure that it was an allowable process and expenditure on the federal side, which it is. So I talked to James this afternoon. And I know that that would, I think you did the calculations, Paul, as to how much you wanted to.
Yeah, again, it's all detailed. We had a range, we worked down to a range, and if you go to the bottom of page 1, it's the actual amount in the motion that he wrote for us. And he said August, but we don't meet in August, so we thought we'd do it in June or July.
Well, I don't think it can take effect until September.
It can take effect anytime we want, because
No,
when's our fiscal,
September or October.
but it was a suggestion, it just has to be in the next fiscal year. He was saying I would suggest something between X and Y, made one-time payment in her, say, September or October 24 mid-year. It was just so that we were into this year's budget. Because it's going to be, if you will, allocated for the whole year. So he was just trying to get us through the summer.
okay. All right, does anybody have any questions, comments? Anything to discuss on this matter? All right. Well, I will for one say that I think Kelly should be at least compensated to the extent that our other administrative staff is.
Correct. That's what made me bring this up at the original
And I
meeting.
think that it's only fair that the increases that our administrative staff receive should be the same increase for her. So I think that this is the right thing to do. I think it's only fair, and with that, I'll entertain a motion.
So I'm gonna make the motion that James printed, but my only question is, he didn't put a date. He then said, we're making a motion to pay it, but the timing isn't timed to the payment. So the question is, do I make the motion as printed, and then do we, outside of the motion, just say when we wanna allocate the payment, before I go ahead and make it?
To be careful, I would suggest that you say, I would say that you said payment to be made in September.
Okay, all right. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that in recognition for all their hard work and service above what is expected, the executive director be granted a bonus payment in the amount of $6,000, comma, to be paid in September.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Again, any discussion, any comments, questions? Okay, if not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you, Mom.
You earned it.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think that does it for unfinished business, Paul?
Yes, sir, thank you very much. Sorry to take you out of order there.
No, that's all right. All right, Kelly?
We're on the compliance reward.
Yep.
So this is a compliance reserve award awarded to the Housing Authority for a roll-in shower for a tenant at the 68902, which is Lake Street, in the amount of $9,793.
Does anybody have any questions about this? My natural question is, are we gonna be able to do it for that number?
We're working on it. We're getting quotes now.
Yeah, okay.
Can
So-
I ask-
So what do we do if the quotes come in higher? I guess is the natural question.
I'm gonna ask the HCD for more money.
Ask for more money, okay. All right.
My question is a little bit more logistical. What was the genesis of this? Did we make an application? Did the HCD learn that we had a bad shower there? Like, how, little color, little context?
Inspection.
I think
There we go,
when we do
okay.
our inspections, then things like this pop up.
Okay.
And, Kelly says that it was determined that this was in dire need of repair.
That's the color I needed. Thank you so much.
Gary, right?
Yes, yep.
Anybody have any questions? Okay. All right, we don't have to do anything with this, Kelly, right?
No.
Okay. Next.
So.
This, no, that's different. Okay, no, go ahead. I have one more after yours. Go ahead.
So DHCD is coming out with Public Housing Notice 2024-7. And what that is, it's amendments, the 760 CMR. These amendments, since you already had annuals for May, will go into effect next May. They will include implementation timeline. In our family units, if there was a full-time student, that full-time student got a deduction. Now DHCD is including half-time students. We used to exclude wages for full-time students, now we're gonna exclude wages for half-time. PCAs, a lot of residents have PCAs. And we used to count the money, but the PCA could not be a family member. Now that PCA can be a family member. And the difference is they will be on the lease, and if something happens with the tenant, that PCA can take over the lease.
Interesting.
That is paragraph 3.
That's the third page.
Yeah, on page 4.
Page 4, sorry. Yep,
For assets, we used to use the passbook savings rate that DHC would allow, and that was the 2% and only up to $5,000. Now they're moving that up to 25,000. So whatever higher interest rate, we have to count that. If it's 25,000 with the 2%, or if you had 10,000 with the higher interest rate, we would have to count the higher of them both. Gifts used to be, we wouldn't count gifts if it was $2,000 or below. They're moving that up to $5,000
if it was 2,000 or more,
or more.
yes.
They're moving that up to 5,000. Support of a minor were included in gross income. Now it's any household member who receives support payments will be counted as income. When you work, we would exclude 15,600. That is going up to 43,000. So that's a big jump,
Wow.
which
That's
Which-
fantastic.
it is.
That's fantastic. Does everyone understand the implications of that? Means you
So-
can work a lot more without it affecting us.
Right, because we would exclude it, so that was really good. The wages for students, again, half-time college students or full-time, we still exclude.
Let's back up a little bit.
Oh, yep.
That exclusion
Oh, it's only for 2 years.
cap is for jobs related to employment training and apprenticeship programs, right?
Trainings for employment or apprentice, or excluded from gross household income.
Right, okay. Not every job.
And that's for 2 years.
Oh, okay, fair point.
So it's not every job, it's these types of
Conditions,
jobs.
yes, certain jobs.
Okay.
Employment, apprenticeships, training, certain jobs, correct, yeah.
Right.
We did the,
Which, I'm sorry, Kelly,
Yep.
by very definition would be higher paying jobs, which is why, so it's not
Why
a
they're
clerk
doing
at the
this.
supermarket. In other words, it's an incentive to up-level the employment.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
wages and salary is now going for half-time students. And full-time students will qualify. Income from a live-in PCA. That was not a family member's income, we didn't count it. Income of all live-in PCAs, whether or not they live in the family's member of the household, is excluded from gross household income. So we used to
Kelly, you
count
gotta speak up a little bit, I'm having a very difficult time hearing you.
Yeah, face up.
PCA income, whether it's a family member or an outside agency, and that person is living with the tenant, is now excluded. We used to count if a family member was living there, we would count their income.
Thank you.
Now we don't.
Right. Achieving a better life experience, able accounts, I have not ran into any of these. And the Brave Act annuity payments, I have not.
So you don't have any examples of that at all?
I do not. I'm gonna reach out to someone at the town, he's the veteran, just to talk to him to see if he can break down what veterans, what would
It's
fall under the
certain
Brave
veterans
Act.
annuities. Basically, it's certain veterans annuities and now excluded from income when it comes to counting.
And that would help a lot of our residents.
Right, so,
Child support, separate support, alimony, was only deducted if the support of a child minor not residing within the household. Now, the deduction for child support, separate support, alimony, Under court order is deducted if this supports any child not residing in the household, whether or not the child is a minor.
So that means that they get that benefit if the child is in school.
School, college, and stuff. Non-reimbursable payments of tuition and fees, we haven't come across that either. And the most important one is changing the obligation of the housing authority to rekey locks. If a tenant calls to say.
What was that, please?
To rekey locks,
The obligation of the housing authority to change the locks.
change the locks. We now have 48 hours to change those locks. If a tenant requests it and they're under immediate threat or domestic violence,
And obtained a restraining order.
correct.
So if there's a restraining order, then how much time do you have?
Once the tenant notifies you that there's a restraining order, then you have 48 hours.
Oh, that's what you had before.
Yeah, but now, we were required to rekey locks promptly upon request. Now they're giving us 48 hours.
They're just clarifying the language. Promptly could have been a day, a week, or a month. They're
Totally.
quantifying it.
Obligations to over-income households. This year, we ran into a lot of that. And previously, we were allowed to extend that for 6 months. They could stay, they're gonna be paying, the payment standard, which is high. Now, they can extend, DHCD is allowing us to extend it another 6 months. So it'll be up to a year. After that year, I'm not sure which DHCD wants, is it gonna allow continuous or not? But they're paying the payment standard for a one-bedroom apartment.
You mean they're paying like market value and because they're, I don't understand.
If you're over income, you're still paying the 30%
Yeah.
of your income. And if you're over income for the eligibility requirements for the housing that you're in, they're saying that you can still do that. Which frankly, we've been doing anyway. So I'm not sure what that amendment's for. It doesn't say that it's limited to only that year, it just says you can do it for a year.
Here.
But it doesn't say what you do after a year. So probably to be revisited. I'm sure to be revisited, yes.
LTO funding, we don't have LTO, a recognized LTO. And then the heat deduction schedule. So our 667s, 1 and 2, heat is included. Our family units, heat is not included. So the deduction is going from 5 to 1,000 for a 2-bedroom unit. It's just gonna help those families more in the wintertime.
That means that they get to deduct $1,000 from their rent.
Yes.
Right, to help them pay the heat bill,
Heat bill.
if they incur a $1,000 heat bill. Okay. Okay, that was kind of a quick run-through. Does anybody have any questions about this? Kathy? It's me.
So if the heat bill's $800, then they can deduct $800, they don't automatically get to deduct 1,000, right?
Correct.
And the other one, can you go over the PCA being able to take over the lease again?
Yes, so say I have a resident who wants her daughter to move in with her to be her PCA. So now the PCA goes on the lease. The mom gets her, goes into a nursing home, ends up not coming back to the housing authority. the PCA, who's the daughter, now can take over that lease.
It's like the housing authority version of rent control.
Right,
No, it's exactly, it's like a rent control.
regardless of age, if they
regardless
don't
of- well,
qualify.
18 and older. Yeah, well, we do queries on PCAs.
That
So
means-
they would
that essentially
qualify.
means that someone in their twenties could stay in an elderly apartment.
It's
Yeah.
like
For
the
the
New
rest
York
of their life.
stories of where the grandmother gives the granddaughter the apartment because it's
Right.
rent controlled, yeah.
Right. Everything about it I think is great, but for that.
For that,
That's very interesting. It doesn't seem very government-like. No, I mean, based on, usually if the government can screw something up or overcomplicate it, they do.
I think that depends on from what viewpoint you're looking at it, I'm not sure.
It's just very interesting to me. I mean, I think it's a great opportunity for the people that fall into it, but it just doesn't seem like a program.
Because it's taken away from someone else who may need it.
Right, that's what I mean. It doesn't seem like a program, yeah.
How does the PCA's salary come into
Oh,
play?
good
in
point.
that situation?
So suppose she wasn't working, suppose her job was to take care of her mother, she would just be like anyone else without an income, but if she did have an income, it would be I assume the same 30% situation.
yeah, we would combine
Yeah,
those incomes.
Yep.
Nice.
Carol, could you explain the $5,000 gift that you were saying? What is that?
So if you have a family member who wanted to give you $5,000, we would not count that
Okay.
a gift.
In other words, it wouldn't be considered income and work towards the formula of your rent calculation.
Oh, okay, that.
Just said it more simply.
Yeah. A lot of that.
So tell all your family members to give you $5,000.
That's 5,000 for the year?
Yes, yes.
Okay, any questions?
No, Mr. Ricker, Mr. Chair, if we're done with this, I do have one more item of new business, but I'll let.
Okay, are we done with this? Okay,
I think we are.
all right, thank you, Kelly. Paul?
If it please the board, again, Maria, can I ask you to share? Kelly, that's for you. We received this email from Rep. Kane, but I had a little bit of a backstory, a little bit of a color. It was something that she and I talked about, again, when I was chair all of a month ago. So I know you're all able to read and discern. I just wanted to, like I said, provide a little bit of color. Rep. Kane and I just had a conversation just the other day about it where she kind of elaborated on it. Bottom line is she was part of a bill that she put forth through the Senate and through the House regarding affordable home care. It's very long and very detailed, but the most important part to us on the email that I printed out is if you go to the bottom of page 2, beginning the paragraph, I was successful, and again, I won't read it, I'm just gonna give you the highlight. She made it an allocation or a request for a generic Shrewsbury Housing Authority capital improvement in the amount of $250,000. Kelly, this is not a fish project or anything of the like. This is over and above all of that. So if we were to receive this, and the if is a big one, I'm gonna address that in a minute. If we were to receive this, this would be subject to our and your discretion. A basketball court, a new dump. In other words, it wouldn't be faced with all the traditional restrictions. It would be like an award or a grant. So I wanted to make that clear. And first of all, more importantly, I wanted to recognize Rep. Kane for going to bat for this entity. It's an enormous, enormous ask. That said, and talking out of both sides of my mouth, if you go to the very end of that same paragraph, they would still need to be, this bill could be approved, it could be accepted, it could go through, and it could still not get funded even though the bill was accepted, or it could get partially funded, or 2/3 funded, or 1/3 funded, et cetera.
And it can
So-
get changed in the Senate.
Exactly, but she wanted us to be aware that this is the vehicle, for lack of a better word, that she put in motion on our behalf. So it's not done, it may not get done, it may get approved and not funded, it may get approved and funded. But I just wanted all of us to be aware that it's a big lift and it's a remarkable initiative. And there's a million other things in this act called the Affordable Homes Act. And there's, like I said, 20 paragraphs, but that was the part that was very, very relevant to us. She made a similar ask for her constituents in Westboro as well, also in hand. So that's it. I just wanted to make everyone aware of that.
How come they would get more than us?
Bigger town,
That's
probably
my
more
question.
population, I would guess. That would be my guess, but I don't know.
How
I
do
would,
they get population?
I don't know, that's a guess. I was happy to get what we got. I
don't
think
think
so.
so.
Yeah, I would ask Miss McSweeney and Miss Smith that. They probably have demographic data and things like that.
I don't think so.
It's small. I think it's about half the size.
Pool would be nothing.
So that's it. I just wanted to shed a little color and a little context on that.
Okay,
Could you,
okay.
could you just say that amount once more?
250.
250,000?
With all of the disclaimers that I previously mentioned. I don't want the quote to be 250,000 approved for basketball hoop.
Oh, Jesus.
Next week.
Okay, so, with that said, do we have any CPC updates?
Yes, I wanted to thank the board in my absence for reappointing me.
Yes.
Um,
This is what happens when you don't come to
Yeah,
a meeting.
I'll never go on vacation.
Yeah, exactly, right.
But I did ask Kelly to put CPC updates on the agenda, because this will be my third year serving this capacity. It is a statutory requirement that someone from Housing Authority. But I think it would be good for next year, someone else for Housing Authority just to serve in this position, so I'm not the only one that knows what CPC does. So I thought if I gave updates, it would make that transition next year a little bit easier. One update that I'd like to share is they're putting together a commission between the 2 people from the CPC and 2 people from Affordable Housing Trust to try to put together some ideas on funding and projects and what we could do. So I was appointed to that because it does make sense for a housing authority to be on that. So that's probably the biggest thing that I will share from our meeting last Monday. And we'll provide further updates each month, if that's okay.
I have a question. I was a little bit confused at what they said at the town meeting about allocation of funds and CPC funds. If the funding for housing, for instance, for any particular year is not used that year, does it carry over to the next
Yes.
year and then carry over again?
Yes.
So what is sitting in the housing-related fund at this stage?
The 10% from last year was about 107,000, and I would expect that was the first year, so there's probably around that amount. I don't believe it's been dispersed because there's a matching amount. Last year, the Commonwealth matched about 30%, and that's how we got to 107. I don't know what that number is for the previous year, so what the second, but probably another approximately 100,000. So that would sit there, and it could only be used for housing. So if we, for example, had not gotten the money from Affordable Housing Trust, that 7,500 would have come out of that fund. But now everything's there, it has not been used. And we could use more, so we could fund, there's 10% has to go to open space, 10% has to go to historic preservation, 10 has to go to housing. That leaves 70 up for grant. So if we had a project, we could use the 10 from the first year, 10 from the second, and then ask for 40% more.
Whatever we want.
Whatever we want. What we would do if we had a project, for example, if we do this Elizabeth Street project, I expect we would use some of the $1 million that Affordable Housing Trust has, but also go to Rep. Kane, Senator Moore, other places to try to get some funds for that as well.
Okay,
But it cannot be used, it can only be used for housing.
Can I make a point of order, Mr. Chair, on the update?
if I can just,
Okay.
if I can just make a comment about
Sorry.
that. As we move forward on Elizabeth Gardens and whether we do family housing or elderly housing or whatever is the final result of this work, or whatever we decide will be the ultimate program, I think it's important to use our local funds in order for us to keep a say in what the final use is, so that we don't get pigeonholed and have to put in someone's clients,
Like Ridgeland Road with DCA.
which is what happened at
DCD.
Ridgeland Road. We have people in Shrewsbury that can't afford to live here. And it has nothing to do with DMR or DMH, or maybe it does, but they aren't formally in those programs or involved in those programs. So, I mean, my hope is that we are looking forward to providing good, clean, affordable housing to folks that need it just because they need it. And we won't get forced into a certain category. And that's why I think it's important for us to try to leverage these local funds, so that we aren't forced into specific categories. I'm not trying, please don't take this wrong, I'm not trying to be discriminatory in any way, shape, or manner. I'm trying to say that, you know, we need housing for people, and just plain old housing for people. And there are people in Shrewsbury that need it, so.
Agree.
And there's people that can't move back here because they need it, so.
And I agree with you 100%. We had that meeting with Undersecretary Stone and Secretary, thank you, Augustus, thank you. I had it in my head until I needed to say it.
Thank you.
And they both, one of them alluded to the fact that we should use outside agencies like we did last time. So just to let you know that that is something that's coming from above. So I'm completely with you, but that'll be a battle we'll have to fight based on a conversation we had.
And I raise this issue because it has been a battle in the past,
Yeah.
and we have not succeeded in that battle because we didn't have a funding mechanism that allowed us autonomy.
Okay,
We have that now, because the town of Shrewsbury has these programs, we have that ability. And I hope we keep that in mind moving forward.
absolutely. And Affordable Housing Trust has $1 million.
Yeah.
And we have, you know.
And CPC has some
So
money.
CPC has 200,000, so that, you can't do a ton with that, but you can get
Plus.
started. Yeah,
Yeah, plus the
And each year-
40%, whatever.
yeah, yes, and there's access to more,
Right,
yeah.
Right. so.
Agree.
And I don't care if we build all of these houses at the same year, it doesn't matter if we can get them built. And if we can move the pendulum, move forward, so,
Groundbreaking.
yep, okay?
Yep, we'll be there with shovels.
Okay.
Hard hats and shovels is my goal.
All right, so that's my soapbox for the day.
Yep, I'm with you.
Paul?
And if we, just to elaborate, to go on with that.
Yes.
So once we get this feasibility study back, we'll figure out what our next steps are, much like we did, you and I did the eligibility form to get that initial feasibility. We'll figure out what our next step is and do that same type of thing. And if you could, you know, we'll, like we worked together on it last
Yes.
time, if we could
Yep.
continue to do that and then continue to get funding.
I look forward to that.
Good, thank you.
Paul?
I was just gonna say, if Ms. McSweeney's updates are gonna, this is, like I said, more of a point of order. If they're gonna be a regular part of our program going forward, maybe it makes sense to put them up a couple, Kelly, maybe under social services, that's subject to the agreement of the board. So we continue to end with new business and in old business and new business, and this is more of one of the rolling updates, just to put it a little more contextually accurate. Everyone agree?
Separate category, see,
Right, that's what I'm saying, a whole separate, she's got it as the bottom of the agenda now.
Yeah.
Put it maybe, I'm suggesting after social services,
just move it up.
and then we still have unfinished the new business at the end.
I like it.
Perfect.
Because those often take there's an update, and then there's something we have to sink our teeth into on the
Yep.
new businesses.
Yep.
That's it, point of order, that's all.
Okay, so that ends our scheduled agenda. Anybody else have anything they would like to add? Okay, how are we doing out there? Does anybody have anything they'd like to add, or any questions, comments? The floor is open. Yes, ma'am.
There have
Your
been-
name for the record, please.
Elizabeth Merrill, I live at Francis Gardens.
Thank you.
There have been some issues with cleaning of the community room kitchen. 2 staff members were involved, and they took anything and everything, pretty much, that wasn't nailed down, and threw it in the dumpster. The feeling of the residents, some of the residents, is that those pieces of equipment, crock pots, coffee makers, that type of thing, should have been put on a table and offered to the residents. If it's yours, come and get it. The other thing is that it's a community room, but the community was not informed that this event was going to take place. It's made a lot of people angry. I'm one of them. There doesn't seem to be a great deal of communication on things that are going to happen on our, I use the word compound, because I don't know what else to call it. And today, several residents were informed that next year, there will be no more gardens. And that if gardens.
No more gardens?
Gardens.
No more gardens.
Food gardens or flowers?
Well, the term that I was told was gardens. We have residents that have spent a great deal of time, energy, and money planting flowers, lilies, whatever. There's a few tomato plants and cucumbers, mixed in here and there. But that, I took note of the fact that whenever the board meets at Francis Gardens, we are always complimented by the board at how nice the property looks. And it's quite often mentioned exactly, the flowers are so pretty, everything looks so nice. I'm wondering if the board or Kelly has any input about this craziness.
Well, let's take one thing at a time, okay? Question of the kitchen being cleaned and items being removed. Kelly, can you tell us what's going on?
So I went up there today. I went into the kitchen. Can't hear me, I'm sorry.
Well, you have to yell.
You have to
I need one of
speak
those
up to the best of your
microphones.
ability, yes.
Okay,
We
I
stand
went up
by
and
it.
I took pictures today. Because
Beautiful.
I heard that stuff was thrown away. A lot of stuff is placed in the cabinets. Crock pots,
Organized,
Doesn't-
organized.
that's what it was supposed to be, organized, not cleaned or thrown out.
No.
That's what it was supposed to be.
And
That's what we
Judy-
did. That's what we did. I didn't touch it, and I kind of got a little blame for it, but I have a chair, so I don't do anything. But
It's-
I couldn't even touch that.
So the two
I'm just
staff
saying.
members did help Judy and Terry.
I'm aware of that. I've
And-
spoken with the two residents.
And there was nothing, what was thrown, there was a frying pan that was all brown with scratches on it. There was pot holders that had all burn marks on them.
Some of
And
it-
dish towels.
Some of it makes sense, Kelly, but I still go to the point that this endeavor was taken on by staff without telling any of the residents that they were gonna do things, because quite a few of the residents had donated things, or used vases or something that were their own property and then left them there because, again, there are residents who take great pleasure in arranging flowers and having fresh flowers every week, which is wonderful. And a lot of those vases got chucked in the dumpster, and several people found out what was going on and went a little dumpster diving and took some of the things back. I guess my request is that if you're doing something in a community building, the community be notified. I don't think that's an outrageous request, is it?
And we did let Judy,
Well, as far as that went, this wasn't entirely our decision, and there was more than 25 vases that were gone through, and we did try to save some because of that, but you can't bring a vase every time you have flowers, because it gets too crowded, it's taking place of things that we actually do use. So, yes, a lot of things were thrown out, a lot of things I tried to save, as a matter of fact, I did the crock pots, so they wouldn't be stolen or taken away. So, I mean, we did try, but that was to clean the kitchen because it hadn't been cleaned in a long time. But it had, that's the thing I wanna stick up for Terry, who is our kitchen lady. And she cleans before meetings and after meetings. She wipes the tables, does the dishes washes always in. The only time on occasion she doesn't get to it, she goes back in the morning early to finish up because she was exhausted. We had a big event and she's You know, now, I heard the comment, everybody, it's a community room, well, everybody should help. Nobody else, except a few people, that lady over there helps all the time. There's another lady, I don't see her here, that helps all the time.
Nancy,
So she's over there,
You
okay.
want help?
Okay.
I don't see her, I can't see her.
That's gonna go.
Okay,
I'm
so,
saying, it is a community room and the community does help.
okay, so,
So to say it's dirty, it was something about a placemat that was picked up, it had been cleaned, except underneath evidently coffee slid under it. So when you picked it up, there was coffee that was still staying there. And then once we noticed it, it was washed.
okay,
There's
so,
no, you
so,
know what I mean?
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I think it's fair to say that your complaint has to do with communication and has to do with perhaps better communication than what happened this time around. I have a feeling from what Kelly just said that some of the things that you say maybe went missing may still be there in cabinets, but maybe
did
that's
not see
something,
them.
maybe that's something that can be checked. Maybe that's something that can be checked, but what we can do is we can ask our executive director, Kelly, to
Thank you.
You're welcome.
try to better communicate. If there is an effort to clean something that definitely needs to be cleaned. And no good deed goes unpunished is the good statement of the day. But that being said, I think it's important to understand that, you know, it's her job to make sure that that kitchen area stays clean and safe and healthy for everybody that uses it and lives there.
There's
So,
no doubt in my mind that it needed to be cleaned.
so,
I don't-
so it maybe a little bit of miscommunication. So I thank you for bringing it to our attention. I think enough said. I think Kelly can take it from here, and communication always can improve. That's why we ask you questions now at the end of meetings, is
Okay.
because communication's everything.
Thank
So,
you.
okay? So thank you for bringing that up. All right?
Just say one more thing.
Yes, ma'am.
This is that, you know, a lot of the things that were thrown away was not made by, the decision by me, I'm trying to cover my butt here, but anyway, I mean, huh? Oh, well, anyway, I was just gonna say that that is not a storage place, your apartment is your storage for your own stuff, so all that stuff was for the club, or the community room, so you had the right to do that, and I didn't do it, Jackie did, she has the right. She is the director, the executive director of Francis Gardens, so she knows that she
She's the
has,
housing
she's a
manager.
boss, believe me.
She's not the executive director.
She's a housing
Kelly's
manager
the
at Francis
executive
Gardens, but
director.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. she's-
Okay, well, again, I think that this all boils down to a communication issue that I think we can try to improve. And I think it's important for us to hear this from you, and I think it's important for us to try to address it and to try to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Knowing, however, that things need to be cleaned occasionally and that perhaps Kelly and others that are administering these facilities may feel that certain steps have to be taken to clean them. So, yes, up in the back, please.
Yes, I just want to bring up the thing about communication. A piece of paper on a wall does not communicate to me what's going on and what's coming up. Email, text, or a little letter would be more appropriate, so all of us know what's going on. I had to walk into the community building today to find out that everyone was coming here to find out what's going on. I had no idea. One person was told to tell everybody. How do you go through 100 apartments and tell everybody?
I didn't know you all be here either. That's
But
that's good.
what I'm saying is
You're welcome.
communication really lots, and lots 100%. We need something more than somebody putting up. I go to my brother's house, my family helps me a lot, I have a sister who stage 4 cancer. I go and I stay there for a week at a time. Now, I'm in Leominster and Holden. During the winter, I'm not gonna run back here to see a notice on a wall to find out there's a meeting coming up. I would rather be emailed. And I asked Kelly about that, and she put sheets out in that. But I would like an email to see what's going on.
Okay, point
It's not
taken.
right for me to have to run back here in the middle of winter during a snowstorm to find out if I have a meeting this week.
Point taken.
Not everybody has email. I do, but I mean, not everybody
Not
does.
everybody does.
That's why I
but
say
you also
point
can
two.
check.
Okay, okay,
Mr. The one,
One more thing, it's.
okay, but we're gonna cut this short now.
Okay, just that the communication, I don't think belongs in our court with, the club, because that's not us doing this. That was not the club doing that cleaning. I mean, we cleaned it, but it's the housing that has to notify people when things are important to them.
And I think what Judy was saying is they have a bulletin board.
Speak up.
They have a bulletin board right in between the bathrooms. Then there's another bulletin board right across from the mailboxes. Then there's another bulletin board right where you drop
From
your
your
mail in.
office. Right.
I was putting notices every 3, boom, 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 right there. I received a letter from the Residents Association asking that I do not use their boards and just use one board.
it wasn't me. Kelly, you used to send out a monthly newsletter.
That's what, I see, I've started with the towers here, which I'm going, so I have the list of names that have given me their emails to start doing that on a monthly basis.
And if anybody that is watching this or knows someone who is not here that is interested, you can let them know that they can give Kelly their email address, okay? Now, next issue is gardens. What's the story on her suggesting that there's no more gardens? Because I like the flower gardens at Francis Gardens.
I drove up there today, it looks beautiful.
I did a U-turn in there the other day, and it looked beautiful.
It does, it
Yeah.
looks, I wish I had
I don't
a
know
green
what the
thumb.
problem
There-
is.
It's not a problem. What you guys have been doing all throughout the years, we want to keep it like that. Know how it's been up against your buildings? That's where we want to keep it. We don't want them in the middle of the fields. That interrupts Gary's for mowing the lawn.
You go so far, they have weed whackers, they take care of the area around their gardens.
And moving personal belongings. My guys are not supposed to move personal belongings.
Chairs and stuff.
Stair-
Yeah, I
I was
understand that.
told that my chair was on the grass. No more on the grass.
I think that's
I
what he's saying.
didn't say nothing. I woke up this morning, my chair was moved onto the sidewalk. That's better, isn't it? That's terrible. Why can't we put our lounge chairs? And when they're mowing, I move it all the time, and I know everybody else does, because we want our grass cut properly. We move it, we don't ask the fellows to move it. Go ahead.
95% of you guys move stuff beforehand. It's that other percent that doesn't move. And the only big thing is, if something breaks with the guys touching it, the house.
I'm not asking the fellows to touch it, I don't wanna move it.
What she's saying, ma'am, is that not everybody does what you do. And there is always an exception to every rule.
Then
And
don't
what
mow
we're
their
trying,
grass.
and what we're trying to do is trying to keep our maintenance crew from having to do extra when they're so short-staffed
Do you know
already.
how hard it is for us to wash, pour water? We don't have any hoses. There's about 3 places that have hoses. We have to go out with jugs of water and walk up the banking, get to where our flowers are, empty a gallon of water, then walk back, and damn it, you gotta do it again because it's not enough water. Why don't we have hoses?
Well,
Well, some of us have hoses, but not all the water things work. That's what the problem is.
Right. What was that?
Some of us have hoses, but not all the water spigots work.
Correct. You want beautiful Francis Garden, give us the hose so we can wash everything down rather than falling down.
Nancy wanted a question. Yep.
did you have your hand up?
It's just, we're back to the other issue. Would it work if every time a piece of paper is put up to the board where you have it, can then an email be sent also?
Yes, that's what I'm doing.
Is
That's
that
a,
the answer?
well, that's something that is certainly a good effort, and there's probably always gonna be
Oh, yeah,
the occasional,
yeah.
didn't get it done,
We're human.
but, and all we can do is ask you to do the best you can, so.
Great.
And I think that goes for the hose situations too, because I understand that when the faucets were working on the outside, we did have a flood one year.
We did have a flood.
where someone left the hose running.
They leave it on and the bottom gets flooded out.
They are,
And then someone gets hurt. So, there's two sides to every story. We will work the best we can to work with you on this. And know we want the gardens to continue. And we're proud of Francis Gardens. We think it's a beautiful place. You guys have done a great job maintaining the flowers. And I hear you about carrying buckets of water. I hear you. Maybe we can accommodate some of that, but we can't, some of the faucets we can't turn on because of spigot issues. And those require expense that we don't have yet. So, yes, Kathy?
Can we get rain barrels instead of using
I was
water?
just thinking that you just
Rain barrels? I have rain barrels that catch all my water. You still have to carry it, but at least it's not water. Environmentally, little.
So all of this leads us to suggestions, and we appreciate your comments.
And allow me to please thank the board and the attending residents for their coming and listening and making suggestions.
Well, thank you for bringing everything to our attention. I think, again, it puts it on the table. Kelly hears you. We hear it as well.
We do, and I like when
I'm
it's
sure you-
But I want you to know that we're proud of the way that Francis Gardens is maintained. And we're also very proud of our maintenance staff, and we're happy to see, the way that you folks take care of it as well. I mean, it's your home. So,
Our
it
maintenance
makes you
staff
feel good to know that you
wonderful.
treat it as your own home, because that's what it is, so.
Winter, summer, spring, and fall.
Yeah.
Yes, Beth?
I just want to say that, on that last thing on the maintenance, the crowning glory on these gardens is the mulch. And they brought it right up, put piles where it was accessible, and it really, really looks lovely. We have been nominated by the Shrewsbury Garden Club for an award. I was told yesterday, so, I got my.
Isn't that great?
Yes.
Isn't that great?
Yes, it does look really nice.
So the mulch, are you saying that we got it, our guys delivered it and all that?
Yes.
So that's fantastic, thank you,
Yes.
Gary, that's
Yes.
fantastic.
That's
Yeah,
great.
They were excellent.
That's
And
great.
when we ran out, the little green tractor came up and dumped it
That's
all.
great.
So it was.
The little
it was-
green tractor.
So I think Kelly's point about the interior gardens has got much more to do with the furniture, and, I mean, don't underestimate how timely and difficult it is for a maintenance person to stop what they're doing, come out of their workflow, move something, come back, run the risk of moving it. I am empathetic to both sides of it, but I certainly see the equation. I am certainly in support of not making more work for Gary and his team, and not just more work, but the time and the interruption and the flow, and we're gonna be here for an hour, then we're gonna go here, and then things fall out of whack. So that's something I'm very empathetic to. So while I'm empathetic towards the flowers and the beauty and all of that, I think if there's just some guardrails and rules that it's no furniture here or here, I think that makes it easier for everybody. And I also would.
And I think your comments are directed more towards expansion
Right.
of the gardens than maintaining what you have.
Yeah.
So,
And I don't think anybody would mind you dragging a chair up by the garden, spending the afternoon, and then just bringing it back. I don't think it's a no chairs out, I think it's a no as a standing rule. They can't be there all the time, so the Gary's guys don't have to move them.
Can I say thank you to Gary? And
I tried to call him out for that.
No, Gary, for that. My neighbor's in a wheelchair, and there was a lip, and I was afraid she was gonna fall, and I kind of talked to George, and George talked to Gary,
And within a couple days, they had it fixed. And she was like, that was so nice. I said, yeah, you gotta open your
It's
mouth.
just like a little ramp, somebody has no problem.
That's nice, that's nice.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you very much for bringing it to our attention, and thank you all for coming.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.
And we're happy to hear from you and even happier to see you. So,
We'll come again.
with that, good. With that, I'll
Chair, I'd make a
entertain
motion to dismiss.
Motion to
or adjourn.
To adjourn. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Good.